there, folks. Hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome to Advisory and welcome to a new week here at WT White. Before we get started on our topic for the day, I wanted to make you aware of one thing, and that is Boo-grams. Boo-grams are a little sweet treat and a note that are being sold and sent by Student Council. So if you want to send your sweet boo a sweet treat, or even just a friend, or your crush. Ooh. Nothing spookier than being brave and asking out your crush. But they are $2 little each, and you can order them in all lunches from today, the 20th, through October 30th, next Thursday. And then on next Friday, October 31st, Halloween, they will be delivered to that person in their first period. So go send something sweet and support our student council. This week here at WT White is Character Counts Week. We will be focusing in on a few lessons about personal character, what it means to be a person of character as an individual, but also in how you treat others and how you interact with your community. And to that end, we're going to be starting today with a couple of videos about empathy and how to be a good listener. A big part of having good character is looking outside of yourself and trying your best to understand others around us. So there will be a short thing talking about the difference between empathy and sympathy. And the next section will be about how to be a good listener with 4 things that all great listeners know. So be a good listener while these videos play.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you can climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
It's easy to tell when someone's not paying attention, but it can be surprisingly tricky to know what truly excellent listening looks like. Behavioral scientists have found that good listening is one of the most important things we can do to improve our relationships, develop our worldview, and potentially even change people's minds. So what can we do to become better listeners? At its core, listening in a one-on-one conversation is about taking an interest in another person and making them feel understood. There's no universally agreed upon definition of high-quality listening, but some recurring features include attentiveness, conveying understanding, and showing a positive intention towards the speaker. This doesn't mean you can simply go through the motions. Researchers have found that merely smiling and nodding at set intervals doesn't quite work. However, there is something slightly performative about listening in that it's important to show you're doing it. So in addition to actively attending to a speaker's words, good listeners also use questions and body language that indicate their understanding and their desire to understand. This might feel awkward at first, and what's most effective might depend on your relationship with the speaker. But with time and practice, you can internalize these basic behaviors. So let's say a good friend wants to tell you about an issue they're having with their partner. Before even starting your conversation, remove any distractions in the environment. Turn off the TV, take off your headphones, and put your phone away. Far away. One study showed that even the visible presence of a phone made conversations feel less intimate and fulfilling to those involved. Once the conversation begins, one of the most important things you can do is also the most obvious. Try not to interrupt. This doesn't mean you need to stay completely silent, but if you do interject, look for natural pauses to ask open-ended questions that benefit the speaker, not just your curiosity. Questions like, "What happened next?" or "How did that make you feel?" Confirm that you're following the story while also helping the speaker dive deeper into their own thoughts. Another great way to show your understanding is by summarizing what you just heard and asking if you've missed anything. Summaries like these show the speaker that you're truly trying to understand them, rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. Speaking of which, while a good conversation requires back and forth, planning out your response while a speaker is talking is a common way to miss what's being said. So try to stay present, and if you lose focus, don't be shy about asking the speaker to repeat what you missed. This might feel embarrassing, but asking for clarification actually shows that you're committed to understanding. Finally, don't be afraid of silence. It's okay to ask for a moment to formulate your response, and taking a beat to think can help speakers reflect on their speech as well. These might seem like small changes, but together they make a big difference. And when people feel heard, they report more satisfaction, trust, and connection in their relationships. In the workplace, employees who feel heard generally experience less burnout and perceive the managers who listen to them more favorably. Unfortunately, while it might be easy to listen to some people, it can be hard to muster all this focus and attention if you disagree with or dislike the speaker. But these situations might actually benefit most from your efforts to listen openly. The theory of psychological reactance suggests that trying to force someone to change their mind makes them more likely to defend their point of view. However, recent studies suggest that high-quality listening fosters open-mindedness by creating a non-judgmental and psychologically safe environment. Of course, truly open-minded listening isn't about changing people's minds. Good listening is not the same as agreeing, and conversations don't have to end with a happy resolution. But even during a disagreement, sometimes being heard is enough to start a deeper conversation.
So what happens if you can't connect to someone? Or worse, what happens if they reject you? Learn what makes rejection such a uniquely painful experience and how to work through it with this video. Or get more actionable science-based advice on how to build character at ed.ted.com/buildcharacter.
All right, I hope you got a couple of things out of that. You're going to discuss it on the next slide. The first two questions have to do with the first video about empathy, and the last three questions are all about listening. So enjoy those conversations with your classmates. Make sure when someone else is talking, you are listening in the way that they described in the video, and that you are always trying to find ways to be more empathetic to those around you. But that is all from me for today. Enjoy that conversation, be good to yourselves and others, and I'll see you tomorrow.